25 games unbeaten at home in European football. 0 goals conceded at home this season in the Champions League. I mean, if you couldn't pick more Jekyll and Hyde than Spurs, I don't know what is, because before that game, there was tension, there was uncertainty, there was doubt, there was cause for the manager to be sacked. So we know that the game ended 2-0 to Tottenham Hotspur against Borussia Dortmund in this Champions League tie. But what does that change? Does anything change? Is the manager's head still on the chopping block? We are going to dive into all of that and more in this video. Now, there is a lot of stuff that I want to talk about in terms of the bigger picture of things. And you guys know that I love to do that by now. So I want to talk about the tactics. I want to talk about the form. I want to talk about the injuries, and I want to talk about the fans, but I want to do a deeper dive into that in the next video. So if you're interested in more of that stuff, then hold your horses, because that video will be out shortly after I've recorded it after this one. So this was a very different sort of game for Tottenham, because look, coming off the back of a defeat against West Ham at the weekend, the murmurings and the rumours and the press mill was really milking the absolute scandal of West Ham beating Spurs at home, when we know that it was really down to some really poor goalkeeping at the end of the game, and that mistake cost us the points. But let's not revisit that today. We're going to start afresh. We're going to dive into some stuff to do with the game. So if you're new around here and you're joining us for the very first time, thank you very much for joining. Welcome aboard this emotional roller coaster that is Tottenham Hotspur. Please do like, subscribe, share this video with all your mates, all of that jazz, because it really, really does help support the channel. We're still very new. We haven't even been going for 2 weeks. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers. So it is really helping to boost the channel, and I appreciate all of your support from the bottom of my heart. I now see you guys not just as subscribers, not just as fans of the channel, but actually as my Spurs family. And the more that I read your comments, it brings me so much joy. It's so heartwarming to see the community that's developing here. So I welcome you all with open arms. We are an opinion-based channel. So all opinions are welcome. I can see in the comments some of you don't always agree with me, and that's okay, because actually even the comments that you are sharing is giving me food for thought. It's giving me things to look at in a different way so that I can provide you this content. So I like this two-way conversation we've got going. So on to the game. The atmosphere at the stadium before the game was a lot more optimistic and a lot more buzzy than I thought it was going to be, because we know that when we picked up off the last game, the shouts for "you're getting sacked in the morning" resounded inside that echo chamber of the Spurs stadium. Now, one thing that I think is very important is to mention is when it comes to the midweek games, the cup games midweek, whether that's Europa League, whether it's Carabao Cup or FA Cup or any other sort of cup, right? The atmosphere inside the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is very, very different. And I know some of you are going to say, this doesn't impact the game. But to me, what is true is what happened last night is the hardcore fans who go to every single league game had enough. They had seen enough from Frank. They'd seen enough from the team, and they didn't go to this game. There was a lot of people. I checked before the game. There were 8,000 tickets that were unsold. And based on all of the chats that I was in and what you guys were telling me on YouTube, is that I could see a lot of people who were on the Gold Cup scheme, which means that their tickets were on auto pay. So they already had the ticket before deciding, before the West Ham game, if they were going to go to this game or not. They already had the ticket. And so a lot of those people forwarded those seats to their friends, or they didn't show up for this game. So when I speak about we're a team that supports through pride and pain, there's a lot of fans, hardcore fans out there that don't like the pain and don't back the team in tough moments. And so what happens is you tend to get more fans come into the stadium who are tourists. We saw a lot of youngsters there last night, and I think this is a very valid point, because behind the scenes, and I was going to say this for the next video, but it's coming now. So one of the things I think is very interesting about Tottenham and their ticketing structure is next year they're actually reviewing whether to make a concession for students and young, I don't know if it's young professionals, but it's definitely students. I think I read that somewhere. So it's very interesting that on these evening games, where you tend to get, just from my lens and my perspective and looking at the people around me, you tend to get a lot more youngsters, not families, because I think the games are very late for young kids that have school the next day. But you do tend to get perhaps a lot of uni students, a lot of teenagers, a lot of kids who go with their mates. So there is certainly a very different atmosphere. So we're going to touch on that in terms of, in relation to the form, in that next video. But I just thought I'd throw that in there because it's a very important point to make, because when kickoff comes, the crowd is buzzing, the fans are on their feet, they're buzzing. The Dortmund fans, so the away fans in these Champions League fixtures, they're amazing. And I think that is part and parcel of what gets the crowd up and going, because we feel the importance of the game when we see the away fans from Europe and how they support their team. So the fans buzzing, and you can feel from the minute the whistle goes, the momentum is behind us. The energy at kickoff was there. You could see we started on the front foot. Now, before this game, we saw there was a few changes in the lineup. My prediction wasn't far off. However, we did see that we had 3 fullbacks in the team. So we had Porro, Spence, and Udogie, who was back in the side. And yeah, we were all thinking, how's this going to line up? Are we going 3 at the back, 5 at the back? And it turns out he kind of went for his 4 at the back. And Jed Spence, what a revelation. He is starting as our left winger. Now, on top of all of this, I think it's also important to note that Dominic Solanke, not only did he start this game, it's actually his first start for Spurs since that Europa League Cup winning game. And as much as he has played under Frank, he hasn't been favoured. Richie has been the favoured striker. And even in the PSG game, I think Solanke, he came on about 66 minutes or so. So he has played very few minutes this season. We know that some of that was down to injury, but even before the injury, he wasn't the favoured striker under Frank, which I think is a very important and valid point for this game, because he comes in, he's on the front foot, he himself has a point to prove, despite the fact that Richarlison is going to be out for the next 7 weeks, because he has to plug that hole. He has to prove to Frank that he's the guy to start the games. And so when Richie is fit to come back in, there's that competition for that striker spot, which we haven't seen for most of this season. And I do think having him back in the team gave the team a lift. It gave the team something a little bit different up front. And Solanke is a workhorse. He's a workhorse. We were chatting after the game, and some of the guys in the group don't rate Solanke. That's fair enough. But for me, I think he is a workhorse. He started from the off. And look, he got his goal in this game, which we're going to touch on. So game kicks off. We're on the front foot. The ball drops to Odegaard, but he doesn't quite catch it. He manages to recover it, puts it in the box, and Romero scores our first goal of the game. Now, Romero, it's his first goal in over 5 years in the Champions League. It's his first Champions League goal for Spurs, so congratulations to him. And we're on the up. We can feel the momentum behind us, and we're all hoping, don't concede. But well, would you know it? We have a little bit of luck, and due to a bad challenge on Odegaard, Svensson goes right into his leg. It's a high challenge. There was debates I heard after on TalkSport and things that maybe in the Premier League that's not a red card, but it did look a little bit dirty, and it wasn't really a fair challenge, and he gets sent off. So the game continues. We're playing against 10 men. Momentum's behind us. At this point, the stadium is rocking. You can hear we're on our way to Bilbao. You can hear we're champions of Europe. You can hear Tottenham Hotspur. Honestly, it's quite remarkable, the 360 reaction from the fans when that happened, because they were already buzzing and behind their team. So that gave the fans this extra lift, and you could feel the drive that pushed the players forward. Because about 10 minutes after that happens, 10 minutes after Svensson goes on, Odegaard puts a cross in the box. Solanke just catches it. It just nicks his foot. He backheels it back into the goal, and it rolls in very, very slowly. And we're all watching it going, is it going to go the right side of the post? Is the keeper going to dive for it? But I actually think because the fans started cheering before it went into the goal, I think it caught the goalkeeper on the off because he actually didn't move. So I think there was a bit of that going on. But yes, the goal goes in. Solanke's celebration was brilliant. I don't know whether he's expecting or whether he's just had a baby, but congratulations to him. And his first goal back for Spurs since, probably since a long time, but definitely, certainly since he last started for us, because he didn't score in that Europa League final. So the rest of the game was quite quiet. There wasn't too much to report. Half time, Dortmund make a change, and you can see from the first 10 minutes of when we come out in the second half, they're on the front foot. They're the ones putting on more pressure. And we absorbed that pressure very well, but you could see that we started to look a little bit leggy around that 60-minute mark. And in an ideal situation, in an ideal scenario, Frank would have had a full bench of players to pick from and make some changes. But unfortunately, he doesn't. And you can start to feel the momentum a little bit shift. And that causes Bergvall to go into a hard challenge and get himself injured. The poor guy, he cannot keep fit. On average, I had a look, on average, he misses about 9 games a season. So I have a feeling, because of the type of player that he is going to be a player for us who is fantastic. He's so creative on the ball. He brings so much to our game. We play, the whole team collectively plays so much better when he's in the middle of the park. But unfortunately, unless he can build up his physical strength, because he is still very young, he is going to be that type of player that is going to be quite injury prone. So we need to protect him at all costs. And obviously the way that we do that is through squad rotation. And the good news is that Sarr is back for the next Burnley game, which we'll touch on in a later video. So Bergvall goes off, and we get the opportunity to see one of our own, the brand new player that is on our books. Well, he's not a brand new player on our books, but he's come through the academy, and that guy is Byfield. So Byfield comes on. I'm just going to fact check this. But yeah, Janai Byfield, he comes on at 62 minutes when Bergvall goes off, and that causes Frank to make a decision about how he's going to tactically shift the team, how he's going to move the formation of the team. And so Byfield goes right back. Porro, who's playing right back, goes into the midfield, and Gray kind of drops a little bit forward. They were both playing from that point forward. They were both playing a little bit deeper. And when that happened, we lost a lot of the creativity in midfield. And you could see it wasn't a disconnect as bad as we've seen in the past. And I think what favoured us in this game was that Dortmund had one less player on the pitch. Because, yeah, if they had that player on the pitch, we probably would have got overrun at that particular point in the game. But that's not how it played out. So Byfield, I have to say, he didn't look out of place. He didn't look out of place in this game. He's 17, he's a centre-back, and he played right-back in this game. He didn't have the most amazing game, but he made 9 out of 10 accurate passes. And for a first time on the pitch, I thought he did very, very well. And I think it helped having Odegaard in front of him, who was still pushing forward. Yes, he lost legs towards the end of the game, and I think he helped see the game out very, very strong. I have to mention at this point as well, Udogie, who is back in the team. God, we miss him. We underestimate how good Udogie is. And again, he's another player that unfortunately, I think he's very, very injury prone. And again, we have to protect him at all costs. He played the full 90 yesterday. And I think, yeah, he's a player that we need to rotate more to get the best out of him. And I'm not saying don't start him every game, but I'm saying maybe give him 60 to 75 minutes every game so that he can build up that strength, because I can't see, if he plays 90 minutes a day and 90 minutes of the weekend, I can't see him lasting us this whole season because of his personal form. So you have to take into context the individual player's form, and not just always, we're so quick to rush and judge the injuries as a whole, because we always say, oh my God, we have so many injuries, but there is context to that in how we rotate the squad. So Udogie has a fantastic game. He did 59 out of 65 accurate passes, so 91%. Now, his long balls, he made 3 out of 3 accurate long balls in this game. And I think those long balls are also what helps us. You could see us pinging the ball and switching it a lot more in this game. And I think Udogie helps that tactical element of the game, and it's something we have been missing. We always talk about the long balls missing from the Spurs game and how we're really far down in the table when it comes to the long balls. And Udogie is the guy who provides that for us. And that is why we look better with our back four of Porro, Romero, Van de Ven and Udogie. Having said that, Danso also had a fantastic game. He held up the ball really, really well. He was mopping up everywhere. He is a very... do you know what I like about Danso? I like his character. I really like... he's a solid player. He's not magnificent, but he's solid. He comes in, he brings that positive energy. He's also on the front foot. He mops up. You know, he himself, he had 81% accurate passes. He did 5 clearances, 3 headed clearances. So look, he's not the best maybe at winning ground duels and winning aerial duels, although he did win 3 out of his 4 aerial duels. But he's a player who makes a lot of clearances, and that I appreciate about his play, because he helped us keep that clean sheet. So it's good to see him being able to step into the game when we don't have one of our 2 main centre-backs. Now, we also have Romero. He made 93% accurate passes, and his long balls weren't that great in this game. Other than the goal, he did a great job at mopping up. But I think actually Danso is the one that probably cleared more from our lines, which is interesting. So, what else did I say about the game? Because I got talking about the players. So I was saying Byfield went off. Yes, that was it. And at around 70 minutes, Solanke goes off. I'll go back to the players. But Solanke goes off at 70 minutes. Now, this is an important note to bookmark, because we're going to come back to Solanke and his form and why he plays 70 minutes and why Mwani came on in the next video, as I said. But he goes off at 70 minutes, squad rotation. This was his first game back. He hasn't played a full game since the Europa League final, and he's been injured, so he needed rotation. Now, Mwani, you guys all know what I'm going to say about Mwani. It's not that the guy isn't good enough. It's that the guy doesn't gel with the team. He doesn't click. It's not, unfortunately, and I'm really sorry to say this, we always have this debate. Is it the form? Is it the players? Is it the tactics? And I think it's on a case-by-case individual basis. And for Mwani, he might be a fantastic player for Juventus. He might be a fantastic player for PSG. I don't know. I don't really care. But for us, he's not clicking. And he didn't really do too much when he came on. He had 7 touches. So obviously at that stage of the game, we're on the back foot and we're defending. And he had 7 touches, no successful dribbles, didn't win any ground duels. I mean, he had, I think, 1 run. And was it when he ran into the box and then it was like poor decision making and the ball went out of play? I can't exactly remember, but he didn't bring much to the team, I guess is the point that I'm making. And I think, when we're looking at the squad rotation, when we're looking at our injury crisis and who we have up top, you might think that Solanke is not the best striker in the universe, which he's not Harry Kane, but he is leagues ahead of Kolo Muani, leagues ahead. There is no comparison that Solanke has to start from here on out as long as he stays fit. And do you know what? I'd even play Tell in that striker position, or even Scarlett. Scarlett I don't think is good enough, but I'd even see him over Muani, because I just don't think he's good enough. I'm sorry, I don't. Anyway, so 70 minutes, we make that change. Xavi makes a wicked shot, which gets saved by their keeper. It goes out for a corner. So he misses a shot. Romero then misses a header from that corner. So Muani's on the pitch, but he's not really involved in this play. Maybe he's taking out players from the game. But we had two chances there towards the end of the game where Romero, unfortunately, if he would have headed that centimetres, it probably would have gone in. And look, if Xavi poked that a little bit higher, maybe he would have managed to get that in the back of the net. But great goalkeeping. And then to finish the game off at 90 minutes, Vicario makes a touching save and he sees out the game with a clean sheet. Probably their best chance of the entire game. So that's how the game went down. To go back to our players, we spoke about the back line. I spoke a little bit about Bergvall and what he brings to the team. Bergvall, I'm so gutted. I'm so gutted that he's out again. I really, really hope it's just a knock. Because every game it seems to be Archie Gray or Bergvall seem to get a knock. And they have to go off early. And we need it for squad rotation, I agree. But those two in midfield, you can see that they click. They're both young. They're both like those puppy dog players who love to run around and just be in every space of the game. Both of their awareness, especially when they play together, is really, really good. And we mustn't forget that those two played together for a lot of games last year. Now, they didn't play in the midfield a lot last year together because Gray played at centre back, right back, anywhere back. Gray was everywhere last year. But when they both play in midfield, they do bring that energy into the team. And I think that's only a good thing for us. We have to keep in mind, they're both 19. I've criticised Gray this season for not being that consistent and dropping off, and his ability to be a lot stronger in holding off players. And in these European games, I think he manages that much better than he does in the Prem, which I think is because there's more physical players in the Prem. So he certainly has some building to do to increase his strength. Not necessarily bulk up, but just become a bit more of a physical player to help see out those Premier League games. But either way, he had a very solid game. Xavi, wow, what a player. The guys, you can see the moments of flair that he has. You can see that he's sort of coming into his own. As I said, unfortunately, last game we didn't see it because, I'm not going to go into that, but we didn't really see it last game. But you could see in this game that he was well up for it. I don't know whether that was to do with the crowd. He was the one jeering up the crowd at 72 minutes when he smacked that goal, smacked it, and the keeper saved it. He was the one jeering the players up, and normally you see players like Porro doing that. So it was so good to see him do the presser yesterday, day before yesterday. It was so good to see him in that presser, talk about his mindset, and although he wasn't feeling 100% physically fit, he was feeling very mentally strong. So it was very good to see him feeling very positive about this game. Jed Spence on the left wing, who knew? Who knew what a great game he had for a guy that is a defensive player? Because, look, he wasn't the most outstanding guy on the pitch, but he made a lot of accurate passes, 84% passing accuracy. He made 3 out of 7 successful dribbles. So perhaps not the best dribbler, but that's kind of understandable considering that he probably is a little bit defensive-minded player. And when it comes to crossing into the box and making those things, Porro was the guy in this game who was able to do that. And I think that's because it's more in his nature. That's just more of the style of play that he has. However, the benefit of having Spence on in this game was that he still did 3 recoveries, he still had 3 tackles, and he still won 50% of his ground duels, of which he made 14. So he was very involved in the game. Wasn't the most outstanding player, but I thought for a guy who was out of his regular position, I thought he had a solid performance. Now, Odebear, what a fantastic game he had. Him and Porro, they came into their own in this game. I think it helped that Xavi was, really opening up the middle of the pitch. It also helped that they had their players sent off. But even before that happened, the goal, getting the players sent off, coming back to pick up the ball and run it forward. Odebear is our fastest player, I'm pretty sure. Everyone talks about Van der Ven, but I think there was a run that Odebear did that he clocked the fastest run out of any Spurs player. So he is a very quick player. Funnily enough, I actually thought that Dortmund looked really quick and they definitely had perhaps a bit more physicality to them, although as much as them being physical players, in European football, the games aren't as physical. So I think, again, when it comes to these European games, Dortmund were undefeated before this game the entire season. So it's crazy that they come to the Spurs stadium and they get beat. And we'll talk about why in the next video. Odebear, great game. Also made some very good successful dribbles. He had more success than Spence. He had a shot and scored it, which is, he had a shot that was saved. That was it. He had a shot that was saved. And actually, he made 28 out of 29 accurate passes. So he missed one pass the entire game, 97% accurate passes and 2 assists. So fair play to him. I think Porro got man of the match, but Odebear for me had a fantastic game. He really, really played off the park. And I hope that he has the legs to do it again in the next game. So all in all, a fantastic result for Tottenham Hotspur. Who would have thought that we would be sitting 4th in that Champions League table? So we can't rest on our laurels because we know that there are some games to be played tonight. And this tea is going to be cold. No, it's okay. But there's some games that are going to be played tonight. So having a quick look at the table, and everything can change. So just a quick rundown on this. We have 14 points. So anything that is 11 points can potentially overtake us. So that would take us down to, Dortmund have 11 points, but that would take us down to Liverpool, who have 12 points. They're playing Marseille tonight. They're off form, so who knows what's going to happen there. Atletico Madrid, they play Galatasaray tonight. They're on 12 points. Atalanta, they play Athletic Club tonight, and they have 13 points, so even a draw for them would take them up to that. Atalanta are already in the top 8. So there's only 2 teams. Does that secure us top 8? I think that secures us top 8. No, it can't do because we've still got one more game. However, that means that even if we lose, obviously we're definitely qualified. But yeah, I think there's a few things maybe to still play out to see whether we 100% qualify. And I guess that's going to depend on the outcome of the Liverpool and Atletico Madrid game. The Atalanta game, that doesn't really change too much because even if they win, they would go second in the table. So that wouldn't really make too much difference. So that's the good news. That's the upside. Obviously for us with our injury situation, it would be great to avoid that knockout stage. We go to Frankfurt next Wednesday to go and play them away. So still a lot to play for, but it's very optimistic. And does this change anything for you guys who are frank out? Does that change anything? I saw from a few comments in the last video that it doesn't really change much for you. But I'm going to talk in the next video a little bit more about the context around that and perhaps what the future is going to hold for us and how we can stop this pattern that we have and how we can rectify this to start winning more games back to back. So I hope you've enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next one.